For today, in the name of freedom, we take the battle to them.
Hello and welcome to another Transformers video. So, 2024, we did see the release of Transformers 1. In terms of writing, this is the best Transformers movie we have ever gotten. And to be honest with you, it's not really close at all. The only other one that I can think of that comes even remotely close to it is Bumblebee. But even then, completely different things. And as far as the Transformers movies go, apart from Transformers 1 and Bumblebee, they are all pretty mixed. You know, it just depends on what you come to these movies for. And that is mainly the action. However, when you think of the most hated Transformers movie, what comes to mind? Probably Transformers The Last Knight. However, that is not the one I'm going to be talking about today. Yes, The Last Knight is undoubtedly the most hated Transformers movie, but it is deserved. And the one I'm talking about gets arguably as much hate as it, but very undeservingly. And that is Transformers Age of Extinction. This movie, when I hear people talk about it, it never fails to piss me off because they always say Age of Extinction and The Last Knight. They always group Age of Extinction with The Last Knight. And yes, it's understandable because they are essentially part of the new kind of reboot, supposed to be trilogy. But in terms of the quality, it's not even close between the two. The Last Knight destroyed the franchise. And, while yes, The Last Knight is terrible, there are, quite a few parts of it I enjoy, but it does deserve the hate. This movie, I don't get it. So allow me to give you some history. 2014, I was like 9 or something. Yeah, I know, shut up. But basically, it was my sister's friend's birthday, and there were two big movies in cinemas at the time. Transformers Age of Extinction, a franchise which I had never heard of. Of course, I was still pretty young. And then there is Maleficent. And I mean, of course, everyone has seen Sleeping Beauty, so of course everyone knew Maleficent, and they were deciding which movie to watch. They ultimately settled on Age of Extinction, and oh boy, did that change my life. Because yes, everything I say in this video, you could very easily just say is nostalgia talking. And, while I would normally agree with you, there are countless movies that I watched when I was like 4 or 5 that I really loved back then, but now I'm just either hate or don't really care for. Or I at least see the flaws and why people hated them. Like Jaws the Revenge. I can't remember when that movie came out, but I remember for some odd reason putting that on all the time. But now, I don't even know how I watched that damn thing. It's so terrible. So I think that's a good example of, watching something from when you were young and watching it now, you see the difference. But Transformers Age of Extinction is a sequel which, yes, I know Michael Bay didn't want to do, but in my opinion is a logical and understandable follow-up to the previous trilogy. Because at the end of Dark of the Moon, of course, the entirety of Chicago is destroyed. And you can just imagine how the people must be feeling. Because imagine the survivors, of like the families and stuff of the people who died there. They do not care about the good robots and the bad robots. They just hate them. I think a good example of this, because I know a lot of people watch this show, and I mean, it's not particularly amazingly written. It's just kind of fun to watch, is The Boys. In The Boys, Butcher, of course, hates all soups. He hates all of them because of what Homelander did to Becca. And that, I think, is it's very similar to how humanity views the Transformers after the events of Dark of the Moon. They do not care about the good and the bad. They just hate them. So, of course, it does make sense that the governments and stuff have decided, you know what, our cities have been destroyed. we are just we're getting rid of them. Okay, we're not aligning ourselves with this alien race anymore. It's done. So just in terms of the general idea of the movie, I think that that is completely logical. Even though Dark of the Moon, yes, did have a happy ending somewhat, with Optimus saying, we'll never forsake this planet and its people. And then, of course, in the next movie, Optimus is completely different, but I will get to that later on. The human characters, to be honest with you, yes, they are not the best, but definitely not the worst. I feel like I'm only speaking for myself here, but I would much rather follow a trilogy of Cade Yeager than one of Sam Witwicky. Sam always, always annoyed me. All he did was scream and run. It was the most annoying thing in the world. And even looking at it now, while, Shia LaBeouf's character, yes, is hilarious in Dark of the Moon, those first two movies, oh my god, it's not as bad as I'm making it sound, but I much prefer dealing with Cade Yeager. He's just a more realistic character. I say realistic. Sam was just a college student, right? But I don't know. There was just something about having a family be the main characters. Like Cade and Tessa. Friggin' T.J. Miller's character, Lucas. That's it. Lucas, I didn't really care for. I mean, there were a couple of funny lines he had, but apart from that, wasn't really anything. Shane is definitely probably the worst character out of this main four. But yeah, at this point, they kind of know that the humans are not what we come to these movies for. We come for the robot action. And yeah. So yeah, in terms of like the human characters, I don't really have much to say on that. That's the one thing that I feel like I can somewhat agree with for most people. But the people who say that the human characters are terrible, I don't know about that. I don't know, because at least Cade, he contributes to the battle. All Sam did in 3 movies was kill Starscream. That is all he did. Sure, he brought Prime back to life, but that is just furthering my opinion on Revenge of the Fallen, that you can remove all of the Autobots and the movie would not change at all. But we're not talking about Revenge of the Fallen, we're talking about Age of Extinction. And yeah, Cade in the one movie killed like I don't know how many of the freaking KSI drones. But that's enough of the human crap. Let's move on to the actual interesting parts. Starting with the Autobots themselves. This crew, before getting to Optimus, I love the '07 crew. I really do. That is the iconic 5 of the live action movies. But I think that this was the best crew we've had. For the reason that it actually feels like a team, and they actually really work well with each other. And not to hold anything against the '07 crew, they work well together, but here they just feel more closely knit, more like a family, mainly because they are, of course, the only ones left. They are kind of the only Autobots that they know are still alive. So, of course, they are very close with each other. Drift, I thought, was just a great character. He was just so cool, and when he was entertaining when he needed to be. And I think that him being a triple changer really is the only thing that I felt they could have done more with his character, because that is so cool. I don't think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think we've had an Autobot who was a triple changer in these live action movies. I don't think we have. So he turned into a Bugatti, he turned into a helicopter, he turned into, of course, the freaking amazingly designed robot. Oh my god, it's beautiful. Then we have Crosshairs, who really is just there, he's just there. He's cool. I like his design. The trench coat, while visually looks fantastic, it doesn't really make sense if you think about it a lot, because okay, how does that turn into the part of the car? How does that work? It doesn't really make sense. Hound essentially being our replacement for Ironhide, who, of course, rest in peace, Ironhide. You'll always be missed. I love Hound. I think that he is absolutely hilarious. I love his design. I like the amount of detail that went into it, like his beard, the way he like takes his hat off when he's watching the videos of Ratchet and Leadfoot be killed. It's just brilliant. Hound is such a great character, and really, he shines in the final battle. He's the MVP of the final battle. You know, where he's like, I'm like a fat ballerina. It's just fantastic. I really, really loved him. But it all kind of comes together when they're trying to save Optimus by the end because, of course, they really are just, bonded together by their commitment and their love for Optimus. And Bumblebee. Bumblebee in this movie, I thought was just awesome. Here he was less of a puppy dog, which, if I'm being honest, I prefer. I prefer this. I don't like Bumblebee just being treated as like the baby or the dog, which really, in the OG trilogy, he is basically the dog. He basically, anything I say like crapping on the original trilogy, it means nothing. Okay, because when I watch those movies, I will have a lot of fun. But there, B was just kind of at Sam's beck and call. That's essentially what he was. In the new movies, he's essentially just a puppy dog. That's what he is, and well, more like a baby. Because that's kind of the design they went for. But in Age of Extinction, here he's a badass. He's awesome. I love this design. I love it. I know, of course, he copied Stinger, so technically when he says, I hate cheap knockoffs, of course, he's kind of being a hypocrite there, but it's fine. It's fine. It's a great design, fantastic. But now getting to the man himself, and that is Optimus Prime. And this is kind of just a general opinion that people have on the robots for The Last Knight and Age of Extinction, is that the robot designs are too humanoid. And I will be honest with you, there are some where it's a little bit too much. There are some, but I think that this design for Optimus goes hard. The logic to of people complaining, oh, it's a great robot design, but it's not a good Transformers design. You can't see that turns into anything, and I'm just there like, what is your problem? Like, most of the people complaining about that are G1 fans. And the G1 designs, apart from maybe some wheels, all right, maybe some wheels on the robot mode, or in Prime's case, you got the windshields on his chest. Apart from that, you can't tell that damn thing turns into a vehicle. Don't you dare say you can look at, half of those G1 designs and go, oh yeah, that turns into a helicopter. Oh yeah, that turns into a car. No, you can't. You just see the wheels. Don't come with that bullshit, okay? Age of Extinction does the same thing. I definitely think it's done better in this movie than it is in like Rise of the Beasts, because in Rise of the Beasts you have characters like Scourge where there's literally nothing there that tells that he can transform. Here, I think it's just done way better. But going back to Optimus, I think that the character arc that Prime had in this movie is way better than how it was handled in Rise of the Beast, where essentially in Rise of the Beast, it was kind of just spelled out for you, as if you were a kid. Here, it's done so well. Because they're essentially the same things, right? Prime starts the movie really hating humans, and then you get that moment of where he starts to, like them again. And with Age of Extinction, it's more gradual, whereas with Rise of the Beast, as soon as Airazor dies, he's just like, oh, we should have been fighting the darkness together. That's basically it. But yeah, even people who, prefer the story of Rise of the Beast, I feel like if they weren't just hating Age of Extinction and they were fair, they would see that the character change for Prime here is just done a lot better. It's also, as I said in the beginning, a natural progression from the story in Dark of the Moon. Because with the humans turning on them, Optimus, he's like, after all we've done, he even says it in the movie, like, after everything we've done, you don't know what you've brought upon yourselves. And, he's like, after everything we did for you, you're now going to kill us. You're killing us for fighting your battle. And it's, oh my God, it's so annoying because that is 100% what would happen in real life if we get these, allies. And then if something was to happen, humanity would just turn against them. I don't think that makes sense, but I think you know what I was trying to say. And speaking of Prime, of course, how can you go without mentioning that amazing, Amazing Autobots arrival sequence. Sorry, this is the reunite sequence. The arrival is from the '07 movie. This Autobots reunite scene is it's honestly it's just below the Autobots arrival in my opinion. This scene is amazing, where you get Prime, obviously in that old rusted truck. Which, by the way, the evasion mode Prime, I think that would have been one of the best designs of the Bayverse if he had his actual colors, if he wasn't rusted. But god damn, that scene's so good when he's driving and you just hear that, calling all Autobots, calling all Autobots. And then he scans the truck and he just completely transforms. The rust flakes away. The music. Oh my god, it was so good. And then, of course, you show each of the Autobots kind of, coming together. And my god, it was so good. But really, if I'm being honest, the best part about it is the music. Let's be honest here. The Arrival to Earth theme, I think, gets basically all the praise. That and It's Our Fight from Dark of the Moon gets all the praise for the Bayverse music. But Age of Extinction had some of the best in the franchise. That scene, of course, you got Lockdown's theme. And, as far as the actual movie's song goes, this was the first one to not have a Linkin Park song. Because, of course, the first movie you had What I've Done, then Revenge of the Fallen, you had New Divide, Dark of the Moon, you had Iridescent, and in here you have Imagine Dragons. And if you don't know, Imagine Dragons is my favorite band. They are my favorite music artists. So of course, granted there's some bias there. I'll happily admit that there may be bias there, but I love Battle Cry. That song is just fantastic, and the way that they use it in the actual movie is brilliant. I said that for Rise of the Beast as well, when they put On My Soul in the actual movie, as opposed to just being the song for the credits. I love when they do this, when they have the movie's song be in the film. You have it when the Autobots are like getting the ship ready and stuff, and you have Tessa kind of looking over like the cops and stuff, and you hear that soft part of the song. It's just brilliant. And then you, of course, have it in the final battle of the movie when Optimus and Lockdown are fighting. You got the loud part. Oh my god, it's brilliant. That Age of Extinction theme as well is just, oh my god, it's phenomenal. It's like a top 3 soundtrack in this franchise as far as I'm concerned. But then we have the villain of the movie, and that is Lockdown. Lockdown is still, in my opinion, the best villain from these movies. And it's not close. I'm sorry. These movies made me, well, mainly the original trilogy, made me a Megatron fan. And yes, I know in, like '07, well, mainly Revenge of the Fallen and Dark of the Moon, Megatron was kind of just turned into a side character. But that's what I loved about him when I was a kid. I loved seeing Megatron just kind of be this like mustache twirling villain, this badass guy who's not afraid to destroy anyone in his way. I loved him. But then you get to Lockdown, and it's just a completely different character. There's no alignment with the Decepticons or the Autobots here, which was the coolest thing in the world to me at the time. And it still is really cool. Just him showing up. I mean, like, Autobots, Decepticons, like little children, always fighting, making a mess out of the universe. Then I've got to clean it up. It's just brilliant, man. It's brilliant. His design as well, I think, is just fantastic. I love the scratches on his chest. I love everything that happens with his face. Like the I would say it's a battle mask, but it's not. It's just like a scanning masks. You got the heat, like, thermal detector mask thing that he uses in his first scene. You, of course, have the most iconic thing about his character, and that is the face gun, which they didn't even bother putting in the Studio Series toy. Which, like, what the fuck, Hasbro? Like, the figure itself is already pretty bad, but you gave him his hook, which is understandable. but you gave him a damn blade as opposed to his frickin' face gun, which is what the original 2014 Age of Extinction Deluxe Lockdown came with. Sorry, I don't understand Hasbro. But anyway, moving on. I've already said it, Lockdown's theme is unmatched. It's just phenomenal. And on top of that, despite being a relatively small character, I didn't notice it in the movie. Like I'm talking physically, sorry. He doesn't really look that big, and he's not. He's a rather small character because he turns into a Lambo, whereas Prime turns into a damn truck. So I didn't notice it when I watched this movie for the first couple of years, how small Lockdown actually is. And yet he whoops Prime's ass. He demolishes him. He is amazing. The combat, the agility, the weapons, the intelligence, it's just fantastic. The way he kind of jumps around Prime's arm, he twists it, he gets rid of the sword, he gets rid of the shield, he stabs Prime through the chest. It's just fantastic, man. It really, really is. Lockdown is still the Transformers villain to beat as far as the live action films go. And, while I'll admit, Scourge's introduction was better, like as far as like the first shot goes, but Lockdown's like opening speech is just a lot better. Of him going like, Autobots, Decepticons, this is all so childish. But I'll let you live if you tell me where Optimus Prime is. And Ratchet, a character or a side character from the previous movies, 3 movies, says never, and he kills him. That is unbelievable. And I hate it when movies do that. To make the villain look stronger or just better, they like kind of diminish a good character from the previous movies. But here, I think it's done in a really good way. Granted, it could also be the fact that Ratchet was just a side character and didn't really do much, but still, he was noticeable. Everyone knew his name, and that was just it was a crazy scene to see Lockdown just rip his spark out. Oh my god, one of the cruelest kills in this franchise. And really, watching Age of Extinction, I just watch it with this like tainted vision because of the last night that the creators, he uses the plural, creators. And in the last night, it's like, oh yeah, no, Quintessa is the prime of life. Yeah, she made everybody. I don't like it. This man has the best speeches of any of the villains. Like when he distracts Prime. Well, I say distracts Prime. When he attacks Prime when Prime's fighting Galvatron, he's like, "Where do you think you came from? You think you were born? No, you were built, and your creators want you back." It's just so good. But of course, we have a second villain in the movie, and a side villain, and that is Galvatron. Another huge point as to people hating this movie is what they did with Galvatron. And I'm going to be that guy. I love it. Now, ultimately, this decision in Age of Extinction is what led me to be more annoyed with The Last Night. I say we. I say me. I mean everybody. That they chose to have Galvatron in this movie. And then when it came to The Last Night, everyone's like, oh yeah, no, Megatron's back, guys. Megatron is here. He's just been chilling, Galvatron. Who the hell is Galvatron? It was so annoying. If there's one thing the live action movies have made clear, is that these are very different interpretations of characters. And Galvatron, in his simplest description, is Megatron reincarnated and improved. And that is exactly what Galvatron is. The way that they took Megatron's head and Sentinel Prime's head, used the memories and everything like that, and then having Megatron just infect the Galvatron body. My god, it was fantastic. And on top of that, G1 fans should have been happy. They should have been happy about this, because this was the first time in the live action movies that Frank Welker came along. You guys are just so ungrateful. No, but genuinely though, that was so cool having Frank Welker come in and voice Galvatron. I really like what they did here. The Transformium, I think it was a good way to keep the franchise fresh, And I know I'm sounding like a broken record here, but I really liked it. I think it's a great way of showing this kind of change in history and the technology because, of course, everything that we know, we love about the Transformers, the humans, of course, are just gonna go, yeah, well, we're gonna make something more technologically advanced. And, we always hate that in movies, don't we? We always hate that. It's like Mechagodzilla in Godzilla versus Kong. We love Godzilla, so we hate Mechagodzilla because he is supposed to be the improvement. And speaking of Mechagodzilla, that is literally copied from Age of Extinction. Like, it's exactly the same story. Listen to this, right? Imagine King Ghidorah as Megatron, Mechagodzilla as Galvatron. The humans took King Ghidorah's severed head. They used its memories and its abilities and to power Mechagodzilla. And then by the end of the movie, Mechagodzilla was possessed by King Ghidorah's mind and then went on a rampage. What happens in Age of Extinction? The humans took Megatron's severed head, used it for Galvatron, used to create Galvatron memories and all of that. And then by the end of the movie, Megatron possesses the Galvatron body and goes on a rampage. It's the same damn story. I also quite like Galvatron's goal because it was a lot better than like Scourge's goal, Like, I know it's not really logical to compare the two, but I feel like there were higher stakes with Galvatron and his goal as opposed to Scourge, because with Scourge it was just, okay, Unicron is gonna eat your world. And I feel like there's a lower chance of them letting that happen than the writers letting Galvatron, like destroy a city to make an army. I feel like that's more believable. So yeah, I really like his plan. I love Galvatron. I love his design. It's not purple, of course. It's not purple. And as someone whose favorite color is purple, I'll be honest with you, I really like this design. It looks nothing like G1 and it's just fantastic. But then we get to the ending of the movie. And that is the whole thing of, okay, Galvatron is now just as he's escaped. He's on the mountain and he says, "We shall meet again, Prime, for I am reborn." And then Prime, of course, flies off, which, by the way, Prime having the jet boosts, I can understand annoying people because it makes Jetfire's sacrifice pointless, but it's fine. It's showing advancement. And then you have that beautiful moment with the amazing music of Prime, having the seed. And he's like, the seed belongs to our creators, whoever they are. There remains a price on my head. I endanger you all if I stay. And then you, of course, have a callback to earlier in the movie when Cade is fixing Prime up and Prime's talking about his spark. And, Cade says, yeah, well, here we call it a soul. And then Prime gives such a fantastic line at the end here where he says, whenever you look to the stars, think of one of them as my soul. It's so good. The way Peter Cullen delivers that line, oh my god, it's brilliant. And then, of course, you gotta have that speech from Prime, after he tells the Autobots, like, defend this family as they have you. And then you just have him flying straight up into the sky and, him talking about, like, who we are, why we're here. We carry those answers inside. And then, of course, he gets to the sky, into space. And he's like, and this is a message. It's always a message with Prime's ending speeches. And, he's telling the creators, I'm coming for you. And then it ends. Oh my god. Look, I love the Dark of the Moon ending, but this is the only one that might be above it for me. I love this ending. It's just so good. It's peaceful and really just sets up a sequel perfectly. Age of Extinction laid the pieces for The Last Night. It laid the groundwork perfectly. It set everything into place. You got your main villain sorted. You got Galvatron, you have the creators, so you have Prime storyline sorted. The creators are inevitably going to come to Earth. Galvatron's going to attack Earth. You got the human story sorted. It was literally perfect. How did they fuck it up in The Last Night? It makes no sense. And that is why I hate The Last Night more than a fair amount of people. Because while the movie itself is, already like bad, it just destroys everything that Age of Extinction set up. So, yeah, man, I don't know. And of course, in the ending, another thing that I forgot to say is the Dinobots are let free. And on that note, that that is where I can understand people who watch this movie as it came out, like in the cinema. I didn't watch it in the cinema. I watched it when it came to TV. I can understand why people were annoyed by this movie because when I watched the trailers, the money shot of both the teaser and the official trailer are of the Dinobots. And I really, in this day and age, a lot of movies are falsely advertised. You had the Meg 2, you had Halloween Ends, you had Godzilla and Kong, The New Empire. All of these movies are just so falsely mismarketed and they give you what you want to see. And with this movie, they were hyping up the Dinobots at the ends of the trailers. And of course, me, who didn't see any of the trailers, I love waiting for the Dinobots to show up at the end because I know how cool that is. But if I was someone who was, eagerly anticipating this movie, watching the trailers, being like, oh my God, that money shot at the end of the Dinobots are going to play a huge part in this movie. I would be annoyed too. So that is the one aspect where I can definitely understand why people are annoyed by this film. But yeah, I really don't know if there's anything more I can say. The human characters are all right. The Autobots I thought were fantastic. The villains I thought were great. The music is perfect. The CGI, I didn't even bring that up. The CGI here is just absolutely, it's phenomenal. It really is. And they had to do more here in terms of the CGI because you have the more complicated Transformers designs. With Galvatron and the KSI drones, you of course you have them kind of shape shifting and stuff like that. So it's a lot more, and I love the CGI. It's just fantastic. It really, really is, and it's such a shame that the live action Transformers movies now just can't get this type of quality anymore because it's not the same studio. So, yeah, this is a half an hour video talking about one movie. And I don't regret it. I don't regret it. I think that Age of Extinction, I think for the rest of my life, I will defend this movie. And there are plenty of movies that I love that everybody hates. Okay, this movie, The Amazing Spider-Man 2, Seed of Chucky. Okay, actually, I don't know if I'd include Seed of Chucky there. That's just dumb fun. But mainly those two, which ironically came out in the same year, The Amazing Spider-Man 2 and Age of Extinction. Oh my God, those two. I love them. I love them. But Age of Extinction to me will always be one of the most unfairly hated movies of all time. I think that this is badass. I love everything. Well, apart from the humans, almost everything about it. I think it's a logical follow-up to the previous movie, which really is what you need because in 2024 this is basically the year of sequels. There's so many sequels coming out. We had Dune 2, we had Godzilla and Kong, we had Kung Fu Panda 4, we had Descendants: The Rise of Red, we had freaking Joker 2. There was just so many things. Gladiator 2 is coming out, Moana 2, so many things, but a lot of them were not needed. Or in cases like, The Rise of Red or Kung Fu Panda 4 are just disrespectful and kind of didn't really need to happen and disrespect the franchise. But Age of Extinction didn't do that. Age of Extinction respected what came before it. It followed the events logically. It maintained continuity. And for the Transformers movies, mainly, I say that it started with The Last Night mainly. Continuity is a tough thing to come by. And I really, really think they nailed it with this one. This is one of my favorite movies of all time, and I can understand people, not understanding that, but I will love this movie forever. So please, if you somehow made it to the end of this gush fest, please let me know your thoughts on Transformers: Age of Extinction. Do you think it deserves the hate? But also, do you think it deserves my love? Because, well, the amount of love. Because I can understand people being like, yeah, it's all right, or this is cool. But is there anyone who is truly passionate about this movie? Because there were, I think, two people who commented on the last video with Sentinel Prime and stuff, where they said, no way, Age of Extinction is my favorite movie too. I was like, oh, I'm so happy, because as far as like a ranking goes, Dark of the Moon is at the top, and then just below that is Age of Extinction. That is, it's so close between the two. But yeah, I'll always love it. Also, the runtime, I feel like, is something that a lot of people complain about. I don't know about you, mainly because I love the movie, but this movie feels like it's like a one episode thing of a show. It just flies by. But yeah, please let me know your thoughts on the movie. Let me know your thoughts on everything I've said. And yeah, I think that is pretty much it. So if you did enjoy this video, then please leave a like, subscribe, and goodbye.